Hey, how's it going everyone? My name is True UnderDawgz, and I'm here today with a guide on Android 17. This character has crazy good mix-ups and a good rushdown as well, and while he definitely does suffer from a distance, he does have certain tools to help him out. So without any further ado, let's start off with his normals. Now there's not too much to talk about here, most of his normals are pretty ordinary, however his crouching light does hit low. And that's a very big deal for certain players because now you can do empty jump lows, or you can do overheads into lows. He definitely has those options, so that's a pretty big plus. His standing medium also has pretty fantastic range, similar to his sister Android 18, so it can be great for whiff punishing or capitalizing on a crouching attack. So that's good too. And last but not least, we have his down forward heavy, which is a very far hitting low slide attack, which is good because Android 17's crouching medium is not good at all. It does scoot him forward a tiny bit, but it's definitely not very good, and that hitbox is a bit deceptive, so it is nice that he has a far-reaching low option. And since it is a heavy, it does a decent chunk of damage too. Alright, that's it for his normals, so let's move on to his special moves next. Now I want to try and arrange these from least complex to most complex. So let's begin with his Acrobat Assault. Quarter circle back and special goes on the wall behind you, whereas quarter circle forward and the key button jumps to the opposite wall on your opponent's side, so that can be great for cross-ups. And of course, both of these can be done in the air, so it's just an extra mobility option. You can instant air dash and then still go back and jump off the wall. So you have a ton of mobility options with this guy. He can do some crazy stuff. And to make this move even better, you can basically do whatever you want to afterwards. You can do a heavy attack, you can do a medium light, or you can go for a low, although he does have some recovery there, so I was actually mashing light there, and it took a while for it to come out, so you can't just do empty jump low willy-nilly. It's not going to work most of the time, but you can go for an overhead, or you can go for anything else you want to, which is good because your opponent's going to want to down heavy you right off the bat, right? Which could be a big problem. However, since we know they're going to want to do that, we can do a key blast instead. And I actually do recommend doing that the first couple of times you do this move, because after you bait the opponents down heavy a couple of times, they're going to stop doing it, which will in turn allow you to do a lot more mix-ups. So I strongly recommend using the key blast to bait out the opponent the first couple of times you do this move. Now of course you also have the assists as well, which you can use to lock down the opponent too, while you go for different mix-ups. So this move definitely does have a lot of options to it. And next up we have the Power Blitz. This attack actually has two stages. The first part is where you charge the attack, then if you press the input a second time, you throw at his projectiles. And they actually do behave slightly differently. In the air, the angle is a little bit different. So keep that in mind. On the ground, they'll go all the way across the screen, but in the air, they may actually whiff because they go up. So just make sure to keep that in mind. And even though you do have to charge it, this projectile is actually great for a variety of reasons. For starters, it gives a slide knockdown. So now you can run in and pressure the opponent, which is good because Android 17 doesn't have very many ranged options. And also keep in mind that charging the attack also has a hitbox as well. So you can actually end combos with this move if you want to store the attack. And if you want to get really flashy, you can actually use an assist to extend the combo even further, which would actually allow you to use both versions of the Power Blitz in the same combo, which can be quite handy because this move is great for comboing into Super. And one more thing I definitely want to mention is this move does beat Super Dashes. You probably figured that out by now since you do have to charge it, and it would be pretty lame if it didn't beat Super Dashes, but rest assured that it definitely does. However, I do have one big word of warning. In order to store the second attack, you have to actually let the entire animation play out. So for example, if I was to try and vanish instead, and then use the move, I don't actually have it stored yet. You have to let the animation play all the way out. And this holds true for sparking as well. I don't actually have the move stored unless the entire animation plays. So while this projectile can be very versatile, it does have some limitations to it. And next up we have the Accel driver, which is easily the most complicated move Android 17 has, and it's also the most useful one as well. So if I do quarter circle forward and attack, and then just keep pressing attack, I get a short flurry of moves. And this can be a good way to end combos, especially in the corner. However, as a player, you can actually choose what order these moves play out. So after the first hit, you have several different options available to you. So if I press forward and attack, I get the overhead, which is good, it's a natural combo extender. However, the opponent can see it coming and block accordingly. Whereas if I do down an attack, I get the low, which is unreactable, especially online. They're not going to see this coming, so already right at the start we have a 50-50 mix-up situation. And if you were to press back an attack, you actually get a fake out of the overhead, which can be great if you want to do a low immediately after, as now you did an empty jump overhead into a low, and it's very sneaky and hard to block, especially online. so it can be a pretty cheeky option. And that's it for his regular attack options. However, if you were to press special on the controller, you actually get his barrier, which can be great for absorbing an attack and maybe use an assist to catch the opponent for trying to attack you. This can be a great option against an opponent who wants to try and mash, because not only will you absorb their attack for some good meter, but you can also counterattack with an assist. So after doing this a couple of times, your opponent's going to think twice before attacking you. And if you press down in special, you actually get the power blitz, and if you've stored it already, then you get the second version if you do the input a second time. This can actually be the best way to end combos, or the mid combo too if you do the first one, as you can easily tag into an assist and keep the combo going. Whereas the second part of Power Blitz is perfect for ending the combo into Super, since it does give you that slide knockdown. And last but not least, we have the Heavy follow-up, which is a barrier still, but it comes out much faster. And if you press Heavy again, you actually get his follow-up, and it doesn't actually cost an extra bar. The first part does, but continuing to press Heavy doesn't spend any extra bar, which is honestly a great tool since in the corner you can actually use this to extend combos, and it still does do a decent chunk of damage. And real quick before we move on to his last special move, I want to cover the different strengths of this attack. So the light version is the fastest, but also has the shortest range. So it's great for combos, but it's not good if you're trying to catch the opponent for whiffing a button, or if you're trying to extend combos after the Heavy because it won't reach. That's why you actually want the medium version. The medium version is a bit slower, but it's got much better range and its follow-ups are just as good. They're actually the exact same. Only the first attack is slower on startup. And then you have the Heavy version, which will cross up the opponent no matter where they are on screen. And this can be very tricky when combined with assists, especially if you time it properly, since the opponent's going to have a very tough time judging which side you're going to be on when the assist hits them. And also keep in mind that both the medium and the Heavy version can be stopped if you hold down the button. So you don't actually have to go for the attack, you can instead close the distance and go for a low, which once again can be very sneaky, especially if combined with an assist. Alright, and that is it for his Accel driver, so let's talk about his finishing drive, which is very similar, although a little bit different. Android 17 steps back a little bit before doing the attack, and the second difference is you can actually cancel the very first hit into something else. So for example, if I think the opponent's going to try and mash out of a block string, I can cancel into the barrier and punish them for that. And even the backstep itself is great for whiff punishing. Now outside of those two changes, this attack is basically the same, although it does have one extra hit if you don't cancel the very first part of the attack. And one very important thing to keep in mind is you can actually chain both of these special moves into each other. So for example, if I start with finishing driver, I can actually cancel into Accel drive and keep the combo going. And in the corner I can actually do it in reverse. I can start with Accel drive and then cancel into finishing drive at the cost of 1 bar. And if I have an assist available, I won't even have to spin the meter. However, before we move on to the supers, a little word of warning. Even though both these special moves are very useful, they do come at a cost. Every attack that you do afterwards will be heavily scaled. Now there are certain combos you can do that still lead to a ton of damage, but in general, every attack you do after these special moves will be lessened. And this of course is meant to balance out the mix-up factor. And last but not least, we have the supers, and Android 17 actually has 3. So let's start off with this grounded level 1. This actually switches sides on the opponent, and is a great way to extend combos if the opponent's further away. It also does more damage than his air level 1 as well. However, it also switches sides as well, so you do give up the corner advantage. So unless this super kills the opponent, I don't recommend using it to end combos, unless you're mid-screen. And next up we have his air level 1 super. Now this super does slightly less damage, but you do get to keep the opponent in the corner. However, despite Android 17 putting a huge barrier over himself, this is not actually immune to other supers and it will still lose if you're far enough away. So it seems like that barrier is purely cosmetic and just to look cool. And last but not least, we have his level 3 super, which is a gigantic projectile that covers basically the entire screen, and yes, it does travel the full screen as well. So it will catch the opponent no matter where they are if they whiff a move, so it's very good for whiff punishing. Now the problem is it leaves the opponent very far away, so doing this move mid-screen basically means no Oki pressure whatsoever. You can run in and maybe get a couple of jabs in there, but you're not going to be able to go for the crazier mix-ups that other characters can do. However, if you're in the corner, that actually changes. You do get access to mix-ups in the corner. So for example, I could instant air dash and go for an overhead, or I could empty jump into a low. All the wake-up options are still there as long as you have the opponent cornered. And also keep in mind that you won't get the hard knockdown if the opponent's too high in the air. So make sure to ground the opponent before doing this level 3. Alright everyone, that's it for the Android 17 guide. If you enjoyed this breakdown and found it helpful, please leave a like down below. And while you're down there, please post any tips you have for Android 17 as well. And if you haven't already, please subscribe and hit the bell. That way you never miss a future video. Make sure to come back next time, and as always, stay UnderDawgz.
What happened? I thought you were supposed to be the ultimate life form.
Android 17, win!